What's up, BSC? I've had a few clients ask for some homework, stuff they can work on at home without any exercise equipment. Here's a pretty basic one. This is a fairly basic, or I could say beginner complex, meaning that for those of you that are working on some more advanced stuff, this may not be the most useful for you. That said, this is going to be great for those who are going through some type of rehab, if you're dealing with some type of injury. I'm going to run you through it and just kind of tell you what to do, what not to do. So first off, we're just going to start off with some bridges. Bridges are just a nice way to get the glutes to fire. Simply press through the ground, squeeze your butt, drive your hips up. So though my feet are flat, I'm going to point out that really you should be pushing through your heels. At no point should you be pushing with your toes. As you're doing this is also going to be limited by how flexible your hips are. I don't have the world's most flexible hips, but you can see as I get to the top, all I'm trying to do is make a straight line from my knee to my shoulder. If my hips were a little bit more, we'll just say limber, I could probably drive into a better hip extension, but that's as far as I'm going to go. If I were to continue on and I were to push past the point at which I should go, I'm going to end up here. So you can see that I've definitely squeezed my butt, my hips are up, but also my spine now, my spine is in a nice hyperextension. We don't want that, okay? This is only supposed to be glutes drive up, my spine stays nice and straight. If I go anywhere beyond that, I'm just trying to hyperextend my lumbar spine. So you're going to start off, you're going to go for about 10 to 20 of these. And again, here's what not to do. Don't do that. Next thing is we're just going to cover some basic crunches. There's a few different ways you can do this. The main gist of a crunch is all I am doing is I am now taking my spine and I am putting it into flexion, okay? This doesn't mean I need to do a sit-up. At no point is my lower back going to leave the ground. This is just me taking, let's get a brighter color for that. This is just me taking where my ribs are, here's my hips, and all I'm doing is I'm just bringing those 2 points closer together. So as I do a crunch, I bring those points together, and I let them separate. So that's the basics of what all a crunch is. Surprisingly, it's done wrong a lot. There's a few different ways I can do it. This is the exact same thing. This time I'm just reaching towards the ceiling. There's no right or wrong here. This is just going to depend on, let's back that up so I can show you what not to do. This is really just going to depend on what's better for you. If you need some kind of head support, maybe this isn't the best thing for you. One thing I will say is, notice where my head is looking. I really don't want to be tucking my chin down this way. Remember, we're crunching with your abs, not your head. So if your neck starts to kick in there, just be aware that, okay, well, I don't want you to do some awesome crunches and not be able to turn your head correctly for a few days. As far as what not to do, on that note, if I grab my head and just start cranking, I am actually getting a little bit of a crunch here, but really all I'm doing is I'm just pulling my neck really hard. We really want to avoid that. It's just a bad habit to get into. Next thing we're going to talk about is, I call it bridge walking. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off in a bridge position. I'm going to maintain that bridge position, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to walk my feet side to side. This is just a nice way to make sure that your glutes are engaging bilaterally equally. Let's talk about what not to do. This is pretty obvious. When you do the bridge walk, again, I'm holding that bridge position. You don't want your hips to be dropping at all. So if I start to dip down every time I do a bridge, all I'm doing is I'm just turning off my glutes as I walk. So that would be what not to do. Final thing, if you have like a stability ball or something like this at home, this will depend a little bit on shoulder mobility. But I can just do a crunch and I can add a little bit of overhead shoulder mobility as well. So pretty simple. I'm going to position myself. I'm going to try to keep my arms as straight as I can. I'm going to hit the floor, return, and crunch. Hit the floor, return, and crunch. Again, I'm not tucking my chin. I'm not letting my elbows bend. If they need to bend a little bit, they will have to, and that's fine. But really what you're going to work on is just overhead and crunch. So again, this is a really, really basic floor routine. again, for some of you, if this may not be suitable for you, that's fine. Don't do it. I've had a few clients ask for some really basic stuff they can just work on at home. This would be a good example for that, especially if you're working through some type of hip rehab, something where you're just working on getting your glutes to engage. You're just trying to get some movement in your spine. All right.